Hi, and welcome to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, joined, of course, by my incredible co-host, Judy Loger.
Hi, Veronique. So happy to spend time with you again.
I know, it's Monday again. How
Flies
did that
by.
happen?
It just flies by.
I know.
It's good to
though.
see
It's
you.
good. It's good. The weather's not too bad. It's not too cold.
No, it's sunny.
Yeah, we'll take it, right? It was snowing, I think, last week when we were
Yes.
here. Yeah, so it's great to not be in the snow, although it's coming at some point. But we'll kick off the show. We have a full show for you today, absolutely, as usual. And so we'll kick off, Judy, with your quote.
Sure, and even though we're going to talk more about the theme of Remembrance Day, of course, this is the quote. A single poppy has the soul of 1,000 heroes and the tears of 1,000,000 loved ones.
Beautiful.
Of course, the numbers are much more.
Yes, yeah.
But that's just to, make the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk a whole lot about that today with our guest that'll be joining us after. But we have, of course, our quick chat segment right now and lots to chat about. There's been a lot going on in the last little bit.
Yeah, always.
And we didn't have a quick chat segment. It's hard to get all of those words out together at the same time.
You did it.
Last week because of the information our guests had to share. It was incredible.
Yes.
So yesterday we changed the time.
I'm very affected by time change. I don't see the need for it. And I gear myself up every year to say, well, I get an extra hour of sleep, but Veronique, it just does something to mess me up.
I agree, and I despise it with a burning fire that is unmatched in my life. I truly wish that the time change would go away.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
But we have to roll with it. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can do but try to adjust our sails.
Well, that's the thing, and obviously the spring I find much tougher. The time change in the spring much tougher. But they say that the Monday after the time change has the highest number of car accidents,
Yes.
highest numbers of heart attacks, and just in general misery because of the time change. Like I can't.
Okay, I'm not as bad as her, folks, but I hear you.
And I find, the older I get, and now I sound like an old lady, but the older I get, the worse it is, the harder it is for me, and I just really struggle badly with it.
Well, we're going to get through this show, and you're going to be as dynamic as always. Time change or no time change?
Time change or no time change, yeah, absolutely. So, a few weeks ago, we lost one of the most incredible, funny, witty human beings, Suzanne Somers.
Icon.
Yes, absolutely. And, definitely brings me back to my childhood when I see her, when I watch that Three's Company, her real breakout role. She was, what comedic timing she had, and an incredible gift to make people laugh.
Everybody seemed to love Suzanne Somers.
Yeah.
She had that infectious way about her. And remember when she wanted a pay increase? That's when she was asked to leave the show because she wanted her pay, which was $30,000 an episode, to go to $150,000 an episode to that match of John Ritter.
Right.
And they felt as a male he was the star. Now, I don't know, I think he was outstanding, but Joyce DeWitt and Chris and Suzanne Somers were, they played such an equal role.
Absolutely.
And so it was all about the pay, and she left the show for that reason.
Yeah.
But what gets me about Suzanne Somers is she powered through the breast cancer, which ultimately ended her life because she just couldn't, after 20 years, she kept fighting it and beating it, and then it finally, she succumbed to the terrible disease.
Yep.
But her love story was something that I've always thought was incredible.
Beautiful.
To Alan Hamill,
Yeah.
who was so much older than her. But may I just,
Yes.
I brought something thinking we might
Love
have a
to
moment
hear
to
it.
talk about
Yeah,
Suzanne
love to hear
Somers.
it.
So actually, Alan Hamill is now 87 years old, and he adored her and she him. And the night before she turned 76, she died the night that he wrote this poem for her, and she was turning 76 the next day. So he did get to give it to her.
Yep.
And she did get to read it, and then she passed away peacefully, and this is what he had to say. And it's quite heavy but touching. He wrote it all in caps. Love. There is no version of the word that is applicable to Suzanne. The closest version of words isn't even close. It's not even a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. Unconditional love does not do it. I'll take a bullet for you doesn't do it. I weep with you when I think of my feelings for you. Feelings. That's close, but not all. That's not all, he says. 55 years together, 46 married, and not even 1 hour apart for 42 of those years.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And even that doesn't do it. Even going to bed at 6 o'clock and holding hands while we sleep doesn't do it. Staring at your beautiful face while you sleep doesn't do it. I'm back to feelings. There are no words, no declarations. We are one. I am in love with you, my beautiful Suzanne, for all eternity.
Beautiful.
It's so beautiful. But now, can I just throw this in? And viewers, just, you know, this is a PG show. But just for those who might wonder why their marriage was so much stronger than a lot of marriages, they had sex 2 to 3 times daily.
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 I thought you were going to say a week.
No, daily.
Oh my.
And that's, if you Google it, if you go back to her interviews that she's had on television, and I've even read it in a People magazine years ago, I was like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Wow.
And she said he makes her coffee, so she feels in turn that. So.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I know. But that is a true fact.
Incredible, though. What struck me there, and it's because you and I don't sleep, is when he said that, you know, we fall asleep holding hands, and I thought, oh my goodness, I would never be able to go to sleep. Please don't do that.
I'm going to start making my own coffee.
Anyway, oh goodness gracious. Yeah, so, you know, she did pass, and you know, and she really, you know, after she left the show, I think she was fired actually. After she left the show, she started her own business, and you know, it was kind of a joke for a while, but like she built an empire.
She did. She was smart.
You know, in the fitness industry, and good for her. You know,
yeah, she played the ditzy blonde on Three's Company, but was far from that. Just as Pamela Anderson, you know, sex symbol, one of the most gorgeous women in the world, built herself up, and they're smart.
Absolutely.
People underestimate their mental and intellectual abilities.
It's called acting.
It's called being smart.
Yeah,
business
absolutely,
people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just got back from an amazing adventure in Montreal.
Yes.
So took a bit of a longer weekend and road tripped. So 9 hours in the car on the way up and on the way back with 4 of my dear friends.
Beautiful friends.
Yeah. So Patty Quinn.
Love. There's the entertainment.
Definitely. So Patty Quinn, Samantha Murphy, who's been, you know, co-hosted the show before, Rachel Bernard, who's also co-hosted the show before, and Kara Scott, who's been on the show, and myself, and we traveled up to Montreal to see Pink in concert. Absolutely incredible.
So did I build you up too much for her concert?
No.
Because I really plugged it, and I thought if she's disappointed, it's because I've been going on so much about how fantastic she was in concert.
Not at all. She literally flew around the arena, the Bell Center. You know, she was an acrobat, she was a performer, she was a singer, she was, you know, funny. And she performed for 2 solid hours.
I think she's one of my favorite. I've seen a lot of concerts as you have, and some of the best again, as you have. Yeah. She's right up there.
Absolutely.
Because to be able to hold your own while doing, you know, aerial acts, that takes a lot of composure and strength for your vocal cords.
I'd just be screaming. I'd be screaming as he swung me around the arena.
It'd be a whole new song if you were on the ropes, right?
And her daughter came out and sang.
Willow.
Yes.
I did not know she was going to bring her out.
She was wonderful.
And she's very strong in mental health, isn't she?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Gender equality and all of that. She's a very strong voice.
Yeah, and the opening group, I did not know them. They're called Group Love.
Yeah.
They were really, they were great. They were, you know, great vocals, great, you know, musicality, really interesting. Hadn't heard them before, but very good.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
But so how much fun was it? So you did that, you saw a phenomenal concert, and then you ate out and you shopped.
We did. We toured around. We got on the giant, it's not a Ferris wheel really, it's they're enclosed. So we saw the city that way as well. And, you know, had a little panic attack as I was going up because it's really high. But really just, and we walked and walked. We walked so much. We walked so much, yeah.
And laughed and laughed and laughed.
And that absolutely we did. So had some great food, really enjoyed ourselves.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, and then drove back on Saturday, just in time actually to see Dad drop the puck at the Timberwolves game.
That was something else I was so proud of.
Yeah,
I couldn't get there because because I had people at my house that I couldn't take with me, but...
Yeah, no, in honor of veterans, so of course with
Yes.
Remembrance Day coming up, Dad dropped the puck with another gentleman from the Legion Branch 10. So Dad and I both belong to Branch 3, and the other gentleman belonged to Legion Branch 10, so really great.
And thank you for all you do, too.
Oh, it was
for the
fun.
Legion and for the veterans, and how you serve as well, Veronique.
It was very important to me. A few years ago, I really decided to focus on some of my volunteer efforts on veterans because of Dad, of course. And so it's really been a great honor to work with the Legion over the last 3 years.
And to your dad, too, who we'll be spending time with.
Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah, definitely see Pink if you can.
Oh,
She's
please.
phenomenal.
Yes.
So another incredible performer, singer, Taylor Swift.
What can we say? I have seen her in concert. She was part of a concert
See,
I saw in New
I would
York.
love to see her.
Would you?
Yeah. It was okay.
She's the name.
Yeah.
She's the name right now around the world
Yeah.
as top singer, I guess. You know, being just okay. So she reached the $1.1 billion mark.
It's incredible.
But what's incredible about that is that she doesn't have a side hustle
Yeah.
as the others do with cosmetics and fashion, all that. This is strictly due to her performing efforts and her music and her, now her Eras tours. Is it Eras tour around the world?
Eras.
Eras?
Yeah.
She's phenomenal, really,
Yeah.
but she's amazing. Okay, I will just say that I've seen her in concert. I admire her humbleness for all she has and all she is, and renowned worldwide for her singing. She's still a very down-to-earth girl who gives back. She's kind, she's solid. You watch her in an interview, she's not braggy. She's on stage as showy, of course, but she's not in her own world a showy person. I love her.
Isn't that incredible? And one of the things I've read a lot of articles about her because, of course, that's all anybody's talking about right now. And when she, re-recorded all of her music because she wasn't able to purchase the rights to her previous the music that she had written and performed and everything. So she re-recorded it and then released it and is now making a cajillion dollars on it.
I know.
But what's really been quite remarkable actually is her dedication to taking care of the team that works with her. So her backup dancers, her performers and all that have health insurance, which isn't the norm in the industry. The people that drive the trucks that move her equipment got big bonuses, which isn't the norm in the industry. No. Like she's really done a lot around taking care of her, her people, and oftentimes for a lot of us, not for everybody, but for a lot of us, like I have taken health insurance for granted, having it with the positions that I have. And so it's really remarkable that in an industry where it is not standard, that she's pumping her own money into it so that they can all have health insurance and be taken care of.
And again, it comes back to being a very, very decent human being.
Yeah.
So I really do love her as a person.
Yeah.
And I think she's a great artist. Like she's not maybe my favorite voice out there,
for sure,
but she's a phenomenal performer. You can't take it from her.
And an amazing businesswoman, obviously.
And creative, very creative.
Yeah.
So I do find a lot of her talent is remarkable.
Yeah, good for her. Good for her. So Halloween last week.
Please. Do we have to?
I know. I
have a
always
dream.
laugh because you see, on average about 250 to 300 kids come to your door on Halloween, which has always been a shock to me.
I know, Veronique, but it's because of our location. So at the end of the road is where they get dropped off. We're the second house in on the right, which is a huge leeway to a large number of homes in the subdivision.
Yes.
Of course, I'm the second house in. So they get, hello. So they start at 4:30, and I'm at the door from 4:30 straight on until 8 o'clock. Curfew, and Gerard hides upstairs with the dog and keeps her quiet.
Does. Yeah.
He hides. But so we did have about 285, 290. Gosh. So just really quickly, this boy came to the door about 5:30 with his friends, and I said, "Hi guys, how are you? We're good. And what grade are you in?" Making small talk, putting their treats in their bag. We're in grade 10. Oh, nice. What school? James and Hill. I said, "Good school. That's where I went."
Yeah.
Around 8:30, they came back again. So I had all these hundreds in between.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, hi." And he didn't have a mask on. He had just markings like tattoos and the little whiskers and stuff on, so you could see his face was the same kid.
You recognized him?
No change. And I said, "You're back." And he said, "I am." And I said, "So you came back for more treats?" He goes, "Yes, I did."
Oh.
I mean, okay. I like honesty. I like honesty.
Yeah, honesty
I
is
could have
good.
said, well, sorry, but I don't do it twice. But I
Yeah.
thought, you have guts.
Yeah.
You have guts. And I
Yeah.
like you for being that
Aw.
person that says what they want. So I dumped some more in his bag.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, I didn't want the leftovers because I knew I'd eat them all.
Yes.
So the last little girl, I gave her the box. She said, I love this. I'm coming back next year again.
I love this house. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And which is funny because so we don't live that. I live 2 streets over from you, right, in the same
Yeah.
subdivision, and I got very few kids.
Yeah, I think it's because they skip. So there's one great big square in our
Yes.
neighborhood, and then there's a side street which goes down your
Yes,
side,
yeah.
and there are a lot of beautiful homes, including
Yep.
your own, on that stretch. But they don't go dip into that side
They
street and
don't.
around. They go all around without.
Well, now we got more kids last year.
You did.
But it was quite cool, of course,
Yeah.
on Halloween here this year. There was a strong enough wind.
Yeah.
So once they started coming down our street, it was cold.
Okay.
Right?
Aren't you
So they-
lucky?
Yeah. So they had done like all of, that square
Yeah.
like around your place. And then once they headed down to our place, it was cold, and so they were fed up.
Uh-huh.
But I had bought, based on what I had last year, I have a lot left.
Well, I'll come see you tonight.
Yeah, I have a lot left. So I'm going to be donating it to a few
Yeah, it's too
organizations
easy.
because
Pick.
otherwise I would just eat it.
Yeah,
Right? Because
yeah.
it's good stuff.
One little boy cried because he wanted to see his doctor.
Oh.
And Gerard said, why didn't you tell me? And he was saying, you told me, Mom, that Dr. Logie was going to be home and that he would
Aw.
see me. And she said, I don't even want a treat.
Oh my goodness.
He just
sorry.
wanted to see Gerard.
We only have a couple minutes left, but I just wanted to give a shout out to my mom, Jacqueline, who's watching.
Jacqueline.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited to say hi to her and to say that I'll
So
see her
beautiful.
see her soon. But just last few minutes, we lost another great comedic star, Matthew Perry.
Oh, I know. 54?
Yeah,
54
yeah,
years
very young.
old.
Yeah, very young.
They're-
I say it's young because I'm 51, so.
Well, that's very young, was considering what my age is, but he had his troubles.
Yeah.
And the dear man was an entertainer, comedic, gifted guy. With all that, he struggled with addiction and recovery and all that. But he said in his memoir, he did not want to be remembered for his
Yeah.
addiction. He wanted to be remembered for someone that he helped
Yes.
other people
Yes.
with through their journey of addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did love I wasn't a Friends watcher per se, but the world's devastated for losing him.
Absolutely, and I did watch the show. I wasn't, a diehard kind of fan, but I did enjoy the show in its heyday. I did watch it when it was, on.
Did you know his stepfather's Keith Morrison of Dateline, the correspondent,
I
the
had no
white-haired
idea.
man?
I just saw that actually.
I didn't
just saw
know.
that. Yeah, I did not know that.
So he's
no.
a very public figure, his
Yeah.
dad, and of course all the cast would be just devastated. They were making what, $1 million an episode at the end of it?
Absolutely. So don't go too far. We're just going to head out to break now, and we'll see you right back. We have a great guest coming soon.
We do.
Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, joined, of course, by my wonderful co-host, Judy Loge.
And back at you, my sweetheart.
I know, and we have a very special guest.
Very.
To both Judy and I, he is my dad. Roger Arsenault is joining us today, and we're going to talk all things Legion Pilgrimage, which you'll hear all about, Remembrance Day, and just being a veteran. So it was a real opportunity for me to bring Dad on to be able to talk about these things and seemed like the right thing, eh?
Welcome, brother-in-law.
Mercies. Thank you very much.
Yes, so honored to have you. We truly are.
Thank you, girls.
Yes.
So of course, Dad, Judy, and I both know everything there is to know. Well, no, probably not everything there is to know,
not
but
everything.
I would like to think that there were some things that you two are not privy
yes,
of.
we'll go with that. But for those out there who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, okay. Well, I'm even before one of these baby boomers. So in other words, baby boomers started at 46. Fortunately, I was born in 1945. And actually, we used to say that Roger does not follow the regular path of behavior. So somewhere along the line, apparently, I came into this world not following the regular path of behavior.
Okay.
That is how you started life, Dad.
Yeah.
No problem. So just as a hint, I like to mention it because You know, Donald Trump says that he was a chosen one, right? I'm afraid I was chosen way before Donald Trump because, number one, I was an orphan, etc. Mom and Dad had lost a child 2 or 3 years before I was born. And Mom had always said that if she'd had the opportunity that she would adopt another child. So all of a sudden, one of the nuns out at the down in Moncton turned around, went, picked her up, and brought her to the hospital. And there in the maternity ward, there was 4 kids, and the nun says, "Pick one," and Mom says, "Wrap that one up," and that was me. And I was only 18 hours old.
Oh, that's incredible.
And she turned around, she wrapped me up, take home. Now the fun part of that was, Dad was in the Army at the time. And he didn't have a clue of what she had just done.
You're kidding.
No.
Well, there's a surprise.
I know.
So you can imagine when he came home and all of a sudden I let a whack go up in the second in the story, and he goes, "What was that?" Anyway, and the story goes on.
That is a very
Grandma said
good
it's a baby.
story. I love that.
Yeah, so and what most would know is Grandma was a midwife at the time,
Imagine.
and in the 40s, you know, like, which is just unheard of, you know, almost. And so that's the reason why the nuns knew her, is that she had helped deliver many, many babies. And Dad didn't mention it, but he had 6 siblings at home. So he had a brother and 5 sisters that she brought
Imagine.
Dad home
What
to.
a beautiful woman, though. What a great
yeah.
mother. And I know you had a great father once he realized you were going to stay a while.
Well, it took some convincing. You said, "What the?" Anyway.
Yes. So, Roger, we have so much to talk about and so much history with you and all that you've done. I'm so proud of you. Let's tell the viewers about the pilgrimage. So, what is the Pilgrimage of Remembrance?
Okay, well, it came as a surprise to me also, but it was one of our colleagues, and we called ourselves comrades in the Legion. And he turned around. His name is Rene Smith, and he's quite an active member of the Legion.
Absolutely.
He is.
And he says, "Look, why don't you submit your resume?" And I said, "What for?" He says, "Well, here's the thing. The National League, if you wish, of the Legion turns around and every second year creates this pilgrimage of remembrance. And it's all sponsored by the Legion. And they choose one representative from each province. So in other words, I put my name in, etc., and lo and behold, I was accepted by the branch. They put my name forward to the command branch of New Brunswick. Command put my name forward to the national conference, and lo and behold, I was selected to be the New Brunswick representative for the Pilgrimage of Remembrance.
Beautiful.
Now there was one member from each province, plus of course there's the organizers that go along. We're a group of 32, and how it grew that way is because you could take a +1. So guess what I did?
I know, I'm so happy you did that. Your daughter, who is so interested in travel and has, lived, you were born in Germany,
I was
you?
born in Germany.
So to get overseas again with your dad at this point in time and
Dad was stationed in Germany in the 70s, obviously, and Mom followed him over there, and I was born in Germany.
Yeah, what a connection.
In Lahr. Yeah, it was quite amazing.
So anyway, bottom line is, we all loaded up, whatever. It's a fantastic journey, if you wish. Now, the idea being, when she mentioned that she was born in Germany, of course, at the time this was 1972.
I already told him how old I was, because I knew, I preempted it, because I knew Dad would say something about me being an old lady.
The secret's out.
Yeah.
So anyway, bottom line is that, yes, I had visited sites, in other words, World War I, World War II sites previously. Nothing prepared me for the journey that we took along those two weeks.
Incredible. Okay. 2 weeks is a long time to see a lot, and you did certainly see a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in other words, it was fantastically organized. To take a group of 30 all over Europe, plane tickets, arrive, bus waiting for us, take us to our hotels all organized, meals organized. We're in the bus first thing in the morning we have breakfast around 6:30. in the bus at 7:30. We go to about 10 sites overall, have lunch on the road, come back around 5:30, etc. in the evening, and then, gee, they let us have a little bit of time to ourselves.
Really tightly organized.
Not much. No, and that was what I found remarkable too. Was most of our days, Dad and I did on average 10 to 15 kilometers of walking. Not just us, the whole group. We would see, as Dad said, about 10 sites a day, and then we would have a group dinner at night, and then maybe do a bit of exploring. But most of our evenings didn't finish till about 10. So it was amazing. It was beyond anything that I could have imagined, and really unexpected. I thought we'd see a whole bunch of nice museums.
Yeah.
And some battle sites, but really it was so much more than that.
Imagine.
And all led by our guide, John. And John is from BC. He's a volunteer with the Legion, and that is his volunteerism, is that he gets these tours ready, in that he does so much research, and he led us through every one of those sites, and it was absolutely incredible.
Well, to be honest with you, at the end I was calling him John Google.
John Google, you knew it all.
All you had to
did.
do is
Yeah.
push a button, ask a question, and John
So
had all the
well.
information at hand. And that was, if I can put in a little blurb here about Canada and our remembrances period overall. Again, I come back to the times that I was in Germany and did some visiting. The sites were not all that numerous of where, in actual fact, where Canadians had participated or anything else. But actually, around the 1980s, Canada shook their tail a little bit and got involved with the Commonwealth group. And all of a sudden now we've about quadrupled the amount of sites that, in actual fact, where Canadians were going. And that brings me to my point, is that over the years, I mean, when we're talking about First World War, Second World War, the only thing you hear about, well, Britain, and then there was, our neighbors to the south, United States and whatever. And although Canada is mentioned, and we are proud to have participated, seriously, people do not know one iota of the amount of effort that Canadians have put in. And we also have to remember that people forget, something like Newfoundland only came into the Canadian Confederation after the war, okay, 49, etc. But there are sites over there where they honor the brigades and the regiments from Newfoundland. The other part that I get is that we have not done a good enough job to turn around and even suggest the participation of Canadians, because I still mention the Commonwealth. As you know, I've traveled a little bit.
Yes, you certainly have.
So for those at home who don't know, because this would not be normal conversation, Dad has either worked or traveled to or lived in 99 countries in the world. 99 of them.
Yes.
And actually is planning to go to his 100th in January. So, he has traveled and worked extensively. So Dad, what we didn't mention, I'll just pop this in here, but so Dad was 33 years with the Canadian Armed Forces, and retired at the ripe old age of 50, which is far too young. And then and had done 4 tours with the United Nations as a peacekeeper while still in the military. Once he retired, didn't know what he was going to do, and thankfully, not too long after, he joined the United Nations as a civilian and spent the next 24 years working with them until he retired at 75.
It blows my mind, Roger. You have lived, you are living a life that only people could dream about, because that's remarkable.
Absolutely.
Okay, but I didn't want to get away from the reason why I mentioned that, is that in these countries that I traveled, and of course we have other troops there from the missions from the United Nations, etc. So even when we go to places like Sudan, South Africa, and whatever, we used to have a commemorative ceremony of November the 11th at cenotaphs that actually where Canadians actually served. Okay, so nobody knows about our involvement in Sudan. Nobody knows about our involvement in South Africa, etc. We concentrate on the First World War, Second World War. So I just want to bring in that Canadian, the Canadian contribution to, in actual fact, assisting to try to bring peace into the world is definitely underrated and unknown.
And so significant.
And so significant.
And thank you for sharing that with our
Absolutely.
viewers who would not have a clue about that.
No, and even I, you know, traveling with Dad throughout this pilgrimage really was in awe. And everywhere we went, and we'll talk more about it, but everywhere we went, there was a Canadian flag and a monument. And it was remarkable.
You were proud Canadians.
Absolutely.
So Roger, the trip was divided into two countries.
Yes.
And both world wars.
Yes.
Right? So let's start with France.
Okay.
And the Second World War. And what was it like to visit Juno Beach as one of the first stops on that tour?
Again, anybody who goes over there, and I seriously would welcome, and I would, you know, tell anybody, go over there and take a trip. But do take a trip that is organized. Do take a trip that somebody knows what the heck they're talking about. The other part being is that you don't necessarily have to be a military expert or whatever. You mentioned Juno Beach, and we'll mention also Dieppe, where I come from, but that's another story.
Yes.
But now, Juno Beach, when you look at it, and then of course, it's not just Juno Beach. You have Omaha, you have Gold, and everything else. So over 150,000 troops came ashore on that fateful day in 1944, okay? So June 6th, etc. So the idea being, again, the Canadians were the ones who made the most advance. They reached the vast majority of their objectives. And this is not detrimental to, you know, to either the Americans or whatever, but we also had other people from the Commonwealth that were fighting in there. I mean, we had Polish people, we had Australians, we had a whole whack of people involved in the overall landing. But we were assigned as Juno Beach. Now, on top of Juno Beach, we were assigned to take out communication sites that were on the hills, etc., so that people could push forward. So the idea being, funny enough, we had to wait for the rest of the folks to catch up. At the end of the first day, we had to wait there and defend our positions. So that's how, in other words, ferociously, if you wish, and seriously, that the Canadians took their job when we went into Juno Beach.
Good.
Yeah, and it was for me, I had no idea that it was, you know, beach after beach after beach. I didn't realize that they were all in that same lineup that we could see, and we walked it. But
Fascinating.
One of the unique parts of the pilgrimage were the formal and informal ceremonies of remembrance. Can you talk to us about those?
Well, again, when we visited a lot of cemeteries and a lot of battle sites, etc. And this is where John comes in quite famously. So the informal ones is that, yes, we all went to visit. And yes, when we went to a cemetery or something of that nature, people would try to find, because you have to understand with the amount of people that had been killed and now were buried and so on, they knew they were Canadians, so they tried to put the Canadians together in a cemetery or try to put the Americans someplace and the British. So the idea being, we went to these issues and we had a little ceremony. John would tell us about that particular battle, what it is that had happened there, etc. Because I had done so a little bit a few years ago, actually when we were celebrating the 75th anniversary of the landing, I had gone over myself and did my own little pilgrimage at some of these sites. And I'm sorry, it's a little thing to honor my father and to honor also those who had come before me, etc., with the military. So I used to go at least to the cenotaph and just do a little ceremony, give them a moment of silence, etc. So that was the informal issues.
Yeah.
Part of the formal issues is where we took part as a group. So this is where we would put the uniform on, etc. Go to, and we did this, 8 times, etc. And they had brought wreaths to lay at these famous battle sites, like Juno, like Dieppe, etc., and some of the other locations. So we would form a gauntlet, etc., okay, like 2 people on each side. Now remember, we had wives, we had girlfriends, we had companions that had come along, and Vera was with me all the time, so she was my opposite number. And the wreath would come and be deposited at the front at the cenotaph. Then one by one, we would all go together and take our poppies off and kind of put it on the wreaths and do our which again, playing taps, doing a moment of silence, etc., etc. And that was quite good because we had other visitors in the area, and they were quite impressed of the fact that we're, a group such as ours. They would come up and talk to us, say, okay, where are you from, what are you doing, and so on and so forth. So again, formal, informal, etc. It was quite the honor to be able to do that.
That's so many people.
We're just going to head to break. There's still so much to talk about.
Yes.
So Dad is going to hang with us for the next segment. So don't go too far. Grab a beverage and a little snack, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, joined always, thankfully, by my co-host, Judy Loge.
Well, it gives me something to look forward to, spending time with you.
Absolutely.
And with the Rogers crew.
Yep.
And beautiful Miramichi here at our studio every Monday. It's
Absolutely.
a reason to get up and go.
It is, absolutely. And we are joined by one of my favorite people on the planet.
What am I do? What am I do?
One of my favorite people on the planet, my dad, Roger Arsenault, who is joining us to talk about the Pilgrimage of Remembrance, as we have been. And Judy, I'll kick it over to you.
Sure. So the Commonwealth cemeteries were a large part of your travel, as you've just been talking about your travel experience and all that you did and all that you saw over the span of 2 weeks. So what were your impressions of it all, Roger, and what were you most surprised about?
Well, surprise is just the numbers to begin with. Okay, and like I said, I had done a bit of a tour previously. None of that existed back in 1972 and whatever, and then they just blossomed out afterwards back in the 80s. The thing is that while we're there, we saw local people, crews coming out, tending grass, tending the anything if something had fallen down and everything else. Everything was immaculate from one over to the other. The other part is not only did they take care of the cemeteries, but they actually took care of inside the villages. They had, Canadians ate here, sort of like Washington slept here and everything else. So in all those locations close by, you had the participation of the local folks. And, we're sufficiently old enough with us, we can kind of tell when somebody is not, how should I say, genuine.
Yes.
But then when we used to meet these people, like, they were genuine. They were just happy to see us and everything else, welcome us. When we went to their local areas to have a bite to eat or something of that nature, they would tell us stories about, especially the older folks, about how all of this kind of developed, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, and by the way, they're still going at it. They, the whole process, now with the DNA or whatever, at least, they're trying to find out more information. This Commonwealth Cemetery group, everything else, continues to try to unearth, to discover more information so that they can properly give people a burial in remembrance. Now, people say, well, why don't we all bring them over, back to Canada, etc. I'm sorry. I mean, the massiveness of it all would just boggle the mind. So we're happy that the Commonwealth Group and everything else is actually doing this.
Right.
They were so well tended, the cemeteries, and I think we had moved into Belgium towards the end of the trip when I was still there, and I think the cemetery was called Tyne Cote, and there were 11,000 graves.
I did get there with my husband and sons a few years ago, and I was like Roger, so impressed by the immaculate.
And absolutely, like They were pristine, and they were so well taken care of. And of those 11,000 graves, there were 8,000 unknown of those buried there. And we would, as Dad said earlier, we would try and find those Canadian graves, whether they had a name attached to them or not. And it was really interesting to see all of those people on our trip. Some would look for, relatives, and some would look for people from their province or their area, and some would look for the unknowns. And Dad and I tended to look for the unknowns to give them a moment of respect as well. So it was amazing to see, and a bit overwhelming.
And emotional.
Yeah.
For sure.
If I can put in, when you asked me what hit me, was mostly is that with the ones that had been identified, we are talking about youth
Oh yeah.
from way back.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about age-old
No.
people in
Short-lived.
there.
Yeah.
We're talking 19 years old. So,
Most of
you know,
them, yeah.
20 years old, 21 years
Young
old,
men.
etc.
Yeah.
The young men of Canada went over there and did their thing.
Yeah.
Now, you also had older gentlemen, and by the way, we cannot forget, the women were also
Just going to
recognized.
say,
They were
the
all
women.
there as WACs, WACs. They were there as nursing
Yes.
sisters, and everything else. So they were given the same honors and the same respect, etc., as any of the combatants that were in the area.
I love to read about that with those
yeah.
historical
Absolutely.
books, including all
Yeah.
the women and how they served, and it's
Yeah.
just, I love it all.
So we were part of a very moving and a bit unorthodox ceremony on the beach at Dieppe. Talk to the viewers about that one.
Okay. Well, I've always gone to Dieppe at least one time whenever I was been in Europe, mainly because, yes, back in when I was born, Dieppe wasn't existent here in New Brunswick. It was called Legier's Corner.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And we had the palm lunch, the hangout in the corner
Yeah.
and whatever. So back in 1956, etc., in commemoration of what happened to at the Dieppe raid, etc., we named our village Dieppe. Okay, so I'm from Dieppe particularly.
Yeah.
So the idea being is that, again, when I quote that you do not need to be a military expert, even years ago, when I first walked the beach of Dieppe, and I thought, who is the idiot that turned around and decided that this was a good idea? Okay, and you have to be there, and again, without being an expert. I mean, there's the good and the bad, and Churchill said, well, we've learned a lot about things that helped us with D-Day, etc. However, the fiasco that was Dieppe was the fact that you came up on the beach. It was all rock. Veronique would be talking about that. The tanks that they had there could not could not make their tracks move on the beach. So in other words, they had no support.
Because it wasn't sand. It was they're rocks like the size of a potato.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you came into a falaise. And when we talk about falaise, it means that the gun emplacements were up on the hills. And then we had gun emplacements there. We had, tiger traps and everything else on the bottom. So in other words, when they landed and the Germans turned around and knew by then that we were coming, they were caught in the crossfire, okay, and tried to make out the beach. So we did not take Dieppe. We're a lot of our folks, in the 1,000 that were taken prisoner of war, etc., and whatever. But at the same token, what we did for the ceremony was that John said, well, here's where I go. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going out on the beach. It's low tide and whatever. And he says, I'm going to go out there to commemorate because that's the time of the landing at 5 o'clock in the morning. So we all went out.
5:23 a.m.
5:23 a.m. for the landing. And the moment of silence and whatever. And John had brought a bottle of Jameson's whiskey.
Oh, yeah?
And with a little cup, we poured a little shot of each and whatever.
Oh, go Veronique.
And with the salute and everything else, we did a toast to the fallen comrades at Dieppe. So that was the ceremony that that we took in.
My heart's very touched listening to all this.
Well, and it was quite amazing, and it's just something that John does on his own to, for his own honor. But so, at 5:23 is when they landed. The sun was coming up. You could see that they had no chance, right? And so, there was 23 of us that morning out of the 30 that were with our party, and I could hardly get up and down the beach because of the rocks and how it was. So to know that our soldiers came ashore to really no chance.
Carrying a 50-pound pack.
Yes, that's the other thing. Just
with their weapons, trying to fire a weapon, take everything else.
It was a really moving moment.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, for
really,
us, for sure.
Enjoyed. It really, really is. You're walking us. You're taking us through all this.
Taking those footsteps with them.
So again, your travels, as Veronique spoke to earlier, took you to Belgium, and so back to the First World War.
Yes.
And I've been there myself, but what was it like for you to actually sit in front of the grave of John McCrae, who so famously penned in Flanders Field? Because for me, it was like one of the most amazing moments of my life. Yeah.
Well, the words of John McCrae, for whatever reason, actually covers just about every facet of what it is like to be an individual with the military and serving. And of course, my only part is that I'm still alive and well and breathing after all of that, but I know of the multitudes that we're not. So in other words, people have a misnomer about this whole poppy thing and this whole November 11th, and we've been accused of honoring war, etc. Now, anybody who reads John McCrae's poem about the poppies and how everybody has died, no, we're not honoring war. Any person who actually has been in a country that has been ravaged by war would not turn around and honor the fact and say, let's go to war, all right? Now, it's not bragging, but I've been in half a dozen war zones, conflict and post-conflict issues. And I can tell you, no, if there's any other way of getting by into an area without going to war, then I would counsel it. So this whole thing about remembrance, and that's what the poem is all about. Lest we forget. We shall remember them, etc. We will not forget, etc. Is the idea of, now, the First World War, which we were coming back, was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Well, we blew that one. Okay, not very long afterwards, and then of course, yes, we still have wars. All we have to do is watch the news these days, etc. However, never ever let it be said that anybody who's in the military, anybody who turns around and has seen a war-torn country, would actually even want to think about honoring the fact of being in a war. And John McCrae's poem and everything else brings that out very much to mind.
Good. It was so moving to see the conditions and the place, and the poppy, very literally, and you would know this as well, is growing at the side of the road and fields, and like it is very literally everywhere you go.
Yeah, that's the one thing that just stood right out for me as to everything else.
Yeah,
absolutely. That experience of being there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's really easy, to get lost in the statistics and the sheer number of thousands of soldiers killed. But what made this trip unique for you? What connected you to this trip?
I've pondered that. How should I say it? Actually, I don't think I have an answer, to be quite honest with you. Yes, proud to have been there, proud to have seen it, done the whole thing, proud to have you with me as my companion to go through that. Very few people get to do that with their kids or, even their wives and so on and so forth. So what grabs me was the fact that, and unfortunately, it is a bit of a negative. Darn, we haven't learned, okay? And whenever I went into countries and everything else, I used to keep thinking, why can't people just sit down and resolve that? And I said, there's nothing that maybe reasonable people cannot sit down and kind of come to an issue. But I forget, the people who are doing this are not reasonable.
No.
They have an agenda, and they think they can get away with it, and away they do. So if you say what grabs me, I'm sorry, we haven't learned. Okay, sorry.
No, you're honest and you're right. So you were asked to lay, Roger, the final wreath of the trip. Now, that's something. So talk to us about that huge honor.
Well, I had already been part of the issues when we had done this private Moratti and whatever, and I thought, my participation was over with and everything else. And then on the last night, etc., my buddy comes along and he goes, hey, by the way, we're doing a formal ceremony tomorrow. Yes. And he says, would you do the wreath laying?
Wow.
Okay.
My.
Biggest battle in Canadian history, most known about and everything else. And I get to lay the wreath.
You got to do that?
Dad got to do that at the Vimy Ridge Memorial.
You would be very proud.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately I missed it, but got lots of pictures. The group that was there sent me lots of pictures.
Yes.
So it was quite amazing and obviously an honor.
Yes, because you flew back and you stayed on and you.
I did. I flew back
Yes,
4
yes,
days
yes.
early because I had a
Yes.
commitment here with the Irish Festival.
Just
so
an amazing
Dad
thing.
finished out that trip, but
Well, actually, if the camera's not too much, I even got a little.
So do
pyramid.
I, Roger. I get filled up too, just thinking about that.
it was
Lifetime honor.
It was incredible. So, in the last couple of minutes that we have, Remembrance Day is coming up. Why do we still need to remember, and why is it so important?
Well, number one is, in actual fact, I'm still quite impressed. As Vero, for the past while I've been home, they've been turned around and I've been asked to speak to schools and to show up and whatever. Now, I'll be doing this again at, Carrefour Beau Soleil, etc. Now, to me, this is sort of like carrying on the banner. And they do it very, very well at Carrefour. And I also know that they are doing it very well at other high schools, etc. So they take a whole week to prepare. The kids do the drawings, they write notes, etc. Thank you for your service and whatever. And this, we're talking about little tots.
I know.
and
I
whatever.
love to see that.
And that entire morning, like this one will be November 10th, I'll be speaking to them again, and I'll be bringing photos from our issues. But for me, it's the whole thing, lest we forget. And if we continue to do that, pound the message, potentially those who grow up and who are in a position of power and everything else will remember this kind of stuff and say, look, isn't there another way we can do business here, etc. So that's what this whole poppy thing, the whole November 11th, whatever. So, and Remembrance Day used to be Armistice Day, as everybody knows, because we honored the 11 of the 11 of the 11th, etc. But now it's been changed to Remembrance because, yes, we have continued to turn around, go to war, and participate. So I don't know if I've covered the topic, but at the same token, this is what it all means to me.
Very well.
It's still about honoring.
And as a veteran, the importance, I want you to just comment on as to the importance of wearing a poppy.
Again, with the social media and everything that's out there, and I'm afraid I'm just an old, an old guy who turned around can do without it, whatever. But people have a tendency to take out the negative parts of everything and then they kind of blow it up and this whole thing. And when you see the commemorative, even whether you go to TikTok or you go to YouTube and you go all this, and you see people turn around wearing poppies, I think, okay, now there's a good reason this media exists. So. Okay.
So we're done for today, and so thankful to have Dad here. And in honor of all of our veterans serving and retired, at the going down of the sun and in the morning, we remember them.
We will remember them.
We shall. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.